I'm excited to have Dr. Aaron Chapa with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center in studio. I'm going to kick this on the FM. Feel free to ask questions. Let us know what you got going on today. Here we go.
99.5 FM.
Good morning. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. My name is Gardy. It's Kickstart, and I have Dr. Aaron Chapa with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center hanging out in studio. School started back up. I think all of the kids, if not, maybe your kids haven't gone back yet, but maybe they are. You're going back to school, college. There's a lot of stress going on. I'm excited because it's almost like heading in towards like the end of this year,
don't
which
say
is
that.
crazy,
It's
huh?
crazy. Yeah, it's nuts. Well, we definitely can attest to where has the year gone.
Yep.
It is. We are on the fast track. It seems like the older we get, they say the faster life gets. And Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we have had a wild, busy, year ourselves. Transitioning into the new practice, seeing all the challenges of moving our business down 4 blocks. You would not think it would be that difficult.
People still go to the old one?
No, nobody does that. I don't think. I'd have to ask my front desk. But from what I the challenge like we're dealing with still is like when we transferred numbers, phone numbers from Xfinity to Xfinity, 4 blocks down, they can't seem to get their story straight,
Yeah.
and they can't import numbers and move. It's really bizarre. Like it's whack. So I'm like, okay, and so we're dealing with little fires.
And
like
it's all
that.
digital.
And it's all digital stuff, and we're software is behind schedule. Software can't keep up with what we're doing, and we can't find software to help us evolve to make things a little bit more streamline and seamless at the front desk. And so we're having our growing pains, just like anybody, and there is stresses, and that those stresses. I was just talking to Kinley, my daughter, last night, and I said, there's challenges in my work that are overwhelming, just like school is going to be a little bit overwhelming for you. But don't let overwhelm mean I'm not good at, right? Like there's so many aspects of things that she is good at, and when sometimes when we get presented with a new challenge. And I don't want to say problem, I just say challenge because the brain loves solving challenges. It loves rising to the challenge at hand and overcoming it and becoming victorious over it. And so I was just trying to encourage her. It's like there's things in my business that are overwhelming that, yes, at some point I just want to throw in the towel and be like, phew, this is too much. But I all come back to, for such a time as this, God has put us all in the place for such a time as this. So for you kids going back to school, we're here to support you. We're here as your parents and your leaders in the community that have gone a little bit ahead of you to show you that, hey, we survived, you will too. And not only did we survive, a lot of us thrived, and we're doing great. I mean, we're seeing the fruits of the effort put in. And so always put forth good effort. Always put forth your best. Because all God really asks of us is to do our best. He never demanded perfection, thankfully. Jesus did all the perfection part. And you and I were just discussing this idea of being good in some areas and needing improvement in others, right? And we can always be growing. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and he was talking about Olympians. They can't be typically. I'm sure there's an atypical phenomenon out there that would defy what I'm about to say, but there's never absolutes, okay? So I'll go ahead and state it with that. But in general, Olympians are only Olympians in that one sport, right? You're not an Olympian in multiple sports. Why? Because it takes a level of practice. It takes a level of dedication and commitment and structure to get things, where you want them to be. And so we're good at what we're good at, whether it's our business to be good at it or whether it's our passion to be good at it. And so coming back to health and wellness, we know that as new challenges arise, instead of looking at it like a problem, or getting overwhelmed or letting anxiety set in, let's take a step back and just breathe. You're going to be okay. That others have gone ahead of you. You can count on the fact that you will make it too, and you've got people in your corner that will support you. And then there's things through lifestyle that we can do to help your body manage some of the stuff crazy that comes at us day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was doing some research because Soleon, one of our favorite listeners on the, if she's out there, good morning, she requested that we talk about migraines and headaches and stuff. And so, when you guys have, topics that y'all would like to see covered on the Living Well podcast, please, make a note, send us a message. We listen. And so she requested that we talk about migraines and headaches. And, as I was just kind of just seeing where today's modern day stats are on migraines and headaches, I was a little shocked. What do you think the percentage is of people in America that suffer with migraines?
I'm going to say in the 20% range.
Not bad. To me, that was low. I was thinking it was higher.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this stuff. But again, maybe a lot of people come to see me with headaches and migraines. So I think
when it's a fire, it's an emergency. They're coming to see
right.
you. I need this fixed.
37 million Americans, suffer and deal with migraines, living with these things, and and migraines is one aspect of headaches. Cluster headaches, another aspect of headaches that are very debilitating and challenging, and a lot of times just flat out debilitating, migraines and clusters, right? So these are extreme headaches. The percentage of people, and interesting, you can't find it as effectively, but that have sinus headaches, that have templar headaches, that have basilar headaches, base in the back of their head, top of the head headaches, eye headaches, one-sided headaches. There's all kinds of different, variations of a headache, and each one of them can be challenging and detrimental depending on severity in and of itself, right? And so, but I would kind of classify these migraine and cluster style headaches in an extreme. Like cluster headaches typically hit people multiple times a day, like an attack on like out of the blue. Oh my gosh, it's coming. It wakes people up every night and kicks them in the teeth while they're sleeping, while they're vulnerable. They're multiple times a week, multiple times a day, multiple times a month. They're suffering with a debilitating attack, and I don't say attack lightly. Like, they're violent. Migraine headaches, put people in bed in a cold, dark, silent, quiet room, and with a pillow over their head, a weighted blanket, so that their body can just work through the suffering, getting rid of as much external inputs as possible. It's very interesting to see. How the body responds when it's under these extreme measures, whether it's vomiting, whether it's eye pain, whether it's photophobia, where even bright lights, and they wouldn't even be able to be in this room. You know what I mean? Like,
mm-hmm.
a bright light is just more than their body can bear, even if their eyes were closed, right? And how many of our kids, adolescent kids that are going into puberty and things like that, are having migraines. I remember as a kid from about, I think, 11 to 13, I remember having migraines. And I remember my aunt telling me, it's okay, one day it'll stop. Like, she's, because she had them too, they said. And a lot of the science and a lot of the research suggests that migraines and cluster headaches are genetic. They're familiar. They're not familiar. They're genetic. Something that, like, if they're in your family history, it's very likely that you're going to suffer with them. And, well, I struggle with that. And sure, I can say that maybe there's a predisposition for your body to break down in that capacity, and maybe that's why it's only 20% of the people suffering with these types of migraine cluster type headaches. And so 37 million Americans doesn't sound like a lot, but I bet you those 37 million that suffer are definitely begging to differ that they're important,
mm-hmm.
right? And so I think we can agree with that. And so I just found that, like, just that idea of stat interesting. And there's not a lot of people that really understand headaches. I remember going through school, and a guy was studying a book on all the different styles of headache. And I remember going to a class, it's called Reading the Signs, many, many years ago. I wish the class was still around, because I love the concept that the body is always communicating through the, like last week we talked about fingernails, I think, and looking at the spots, looking at the luna, looking at the ridges. You can look in the ears and see creases. You can see creases in the tongue. You can see rippling and scalloping around the edges of the tongue. You can see little red spots on the tongue. You can see aspects of the eye is communicating. The body is communicating to the outside world. Are we cognizant and present enough to recognize that our body is giving us symptoms, or are we just chalking everything up to, I'm getting older, or I'm adolescent and this will soon end, like I was told, and I know, she meant well when she shared that with me, and, but she said it because the way she said it to encourage me, even though she didn't have an answer, because, again, finding somebody that understands headaches, migraines, clusters, headaches are rare. I mean, there's not a lot of people that truly understand the physiology when it comes to what is actually happening in the brain. And, they found that, like with cluster headaches, they're typically predominantly male-oriented. They hit the male population. Well, that's interesting. Oh, also, they found that there's a correlation between males and smoking males. Oh, so there's vascularity components to, cluster headaches. When it looks at migraine headaches, we see a lot of female population suffering, and oftentimes related to their hormonal cycles. We see a shift in the way their hormones fluctuate throughout the month, because females cycle. Their hormonal fluctuations are definitely more dramatic throughout a 25, 28-day, 30-day cycle of time than a male. Doesn't mean that males don't have hormones and they don't have ups and downs, because that would be a farce, a myth. And I'm sure that a lot of the relational couples out there could attest to the male population fluctuating in hormones and definitely have mood swings and stuff. But when it comes to migraines, specific to female more than male, cluster male more to female, interestingly.
Something that's interesting, my wife, she used to get really bad headaches. I would kind of consider them, I guess, migraines, but they were consistent. And then she got COVID, in 2020. There's some things that happened. She removed gluten from her diet due to some other things, and her headaches disappeared, just went away.
Wow. So that actually kind of tails right into where we fit in, because a lot of times when you listen to the podcast and the YouTubes today on the what's happening in the research, you go to a seminar and they're talking about neurology and all these big words and pathways that are getting stimulated and what part of the brain is getting impacted, and here's how this drug hits this, and here's how this drug hits that, or they give you steroid shot injections, Botox injections into your neck. I mean,
yeah.
Gracious me, man, there is some, in my opinion, barbaric approaches to managing. Now, again, not disrespecting in any way, shape, and form the suffering that a person is going through that could lead them to, I will take anything. You can inject tramadol straight in. You can just put me on morphine, like make it stop, right? I understand. They associate a higher level of suicide rate with cluster headaches. They're so vile.
Wow.
And so it's not that I'm making light of it. So please understand, I'm just giving insight and approach is in medicine, Western medicine specifically, insurance companies practice medicine more than doctors practice medicine, which is scary. And that should scare all of us, right? They can determine what person gets and when a person gets it. Like right now, if you're a Medicaid or Medicare patient, you might not qualify for oxygen if you are a migraine sufferer or a cluster headache sufferer. And that is an easy, dude, I'm making the statement that I believe that oxygen is a very important therapy for these patients. We don't do enough deep breathing exercises. We don't know how to breathe. We're mouth breathers. We have so many oxygen problems in our body. We have cell-to-cell respiration processes that should be happening on the regular that stimulate ATP. Remember a few weeks ago we talked about infrared saunas stimulating mitochondria to produce ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is a energy money, if you will. It's a currency for which your cells use to drive process. And process that is driven effectively, the more ATP you have, the more cellular respiration you have, the more energy you have, the better the cell works with its neighbors because it's in a good mood. Everybody's happy, and the migraines go away. Oxygen is an important key component. Why wouldn't we start with that? Why is that not allowed in the U.S.? That's dumb. Other countries can do it, and they laugh at us like, y'all do some extreme things first before you do the simple stuff. You know? Well, okay, so that's just a simple, like, kind of what is happening. Then, but when we talk about like injecting like medicines directly into target sites in the base of the skull, for example, to get the muscles to relax, or steroids to get the pain and inflammation down, again, might have a place. But what have you tried in your own strength, in your own power, that can help? It's like he was doing the moonwalk.
He was.
That was awesome.
It's the little things.
Yeah, it's the little things in life. I'm sorry that you guys aren't out there in listener land didn't just see what just happened. It was amazing. And so we take a step back, and I want people to go, what can I do to take the bull by the horns? What can I do to make my health better today than it was yesterday? Or am I going to just accept the status quo, which is I'm getting older, or I'm hormonal, or I'm going through puberty, or whatever the excuse-itis is that doesn't involve you taking some action? And I'm an action guy. At Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we teach people why their body's breaking down, help them understand to become more conscious of why their body's breaking down. People are completely disconnected that ails that they're suffering with is actually something that is in their control, that they don't have to suffer. I mean, do you like suffering, Gardy?
No, I'd prefer not to.
I mean, seriously, I remember being 13 going, Lord, I don't want to suffer.
Right.
You know, so like, what can we do that's in our own strength? I was just, as I was looking through some ideas, I reached out to a couple buddies. One of them responded. Not all my buddies respond. Apparently, I'm not always cool.
Reach out to me, Dr. Chapa.
I know.
I'll hit you back. I'll answer the call.
I appreciate that. And but one of my buddies goes, I said, if you had one idea to support a person with migraines, what would it be? And he says, CoQ10. Well, interesting. CoQ10 is a phenomenal way to stimulate the mitochondria, that cell-to-cell respiration, that breathing of the cell to make it more energetic, to produce more ATP. CoQ10, 300 milligrams a day is what the current cardiovascular research says is necessary for healthy heart, healthy circulation, healthy cell-to-cell respiration. One capsule of this a day could help a lot, and that's just on the cardiovascular side, but they have shown quite a bit of benefit to, again, improving the oxygen basis in our brain when it comes to migraines, cluster headaches, etc. And so we go, sweet, that's easy. I mean, really? And so we use this product called CoQ10 300 mil, and we have 100 mil too. But I mean, instead of taking 3 pills a day, it's easier to take 1 pill a day if that's what the call is. Science, it can actually support that, and I think that's pretty cool. And so when I approach patients with migraine headaches and or cluster headaches, something that's really extreme, debilitating, knocking them on their butt, because you might not have diagnosed migraines, because how many people actually don't go get treated for this stuff? A lot. So the number could be theoretically higher, more than 37 million, more than 20%. The other people suffering just don't deal with it through medicine eyes, right? So they're not statistically followed. But what are things that people can do, and parents, think about this with your kids. I mean, the kids are starting back to school. The last thing we want them to do is to not be going to school because they're suffering with headaches, right? And headaches that are extreme, or you not being able to go to work because you have migraines and you need to be in a cold, dark room. It's just not a functional place. And, man, to know that you wasted a whole day in bed, in the cold, in the dark, when it's sunny outside, or the weather is fall-like and beautiful, or it's a little windy and breezy, or it's beach weather, or it's a party, it's a wedding, whatever, and you're suffering, you know what I mean? Like, that's not any way that you want to, say every day's a holiday, because it doesn't feel like that's the kind of holiday you want to take. That's a nightmare. right? And so we want to make sure that when it comes to all aspects of headaches, no matter what kind of headaches you have, we're going to evaluate sleep. We've talked about sleep before on this on the radio, how important sleep is. And with kids should be getting 9 hours of sleep. I mean, I've seen some studies even as high as 11 hours of sleep, which is weird to me. But okay, I can maybe go there temporarily. But what if they're in their younger years? Yes, they do need a little bit more sleep, and that sleep will help their body recover, regenerate, develop, and make sure all the systems are a go. Because kids do have more neurological capacity happening in their developmental years than adults do. Not that adults don't need more sleep also, but we just typically, how many hours of sleep do you get and feel really rested?
That I want to get, like, I'll tell you what I got last night. Let me look at this. It's not a lot.
Last night. So this is your sleep cycle last night.
Yeah. Actually, it says I slept about 7 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So between 6 and 9 hours is what most adults should be running. Okay. 6 is like the scientific bare minimum to prevent dementia, Alzheimer's, memory issues when it comes to, what can you do with sleep, right? But when it comes to migraines and cluster headaches, sleep is going to be another one of those aspects of importance, because there's a toxicity problem if you're dealing with a headache, a migraine, or a cluster type headache. Toxicity means anything your body can't use, toxin. Okay, so if your body can't use the toxin, it could potentially get stored in your nervous system, your brain, and cause problems. It could get stored in the muscles and become very tense. Well, what if it gets stored in the high lymph system, in the trapezius muscles, your shoulder muscles, and then you get that binding, gripping, tension type pain that evolves into a migraine. So migraines, again, and clusters are typically the extreme, and we have all these other headaches that we want to get to, but we kind of look at like these extremes that are happening. If you're not getting good sleep, 6 to 9 hours of sleep a night, and let's say that you are getting 6 hours of sleep, and you said
I got 7.
7. So you said you got 7 hours. Of your 7 hours, does it indicate if you woke up to pee? Does it take into account like restlessness? Does it take into account deep sleep, things of that nature? Because those are other facets of evaluation. Like, what if you actually sleep 7 hours, but you're dreaming and you're knowing you're dreaming and you're like seeing movie reels all in your sleep? How many people can attest to that? That doesn't mean that you slept 7 hours. That means that you watched movies in your head for 7 hours. When you sleep, it is a time, 6 to 9 hours a day, that you are allowed to be legally insane. Whoa. In the first 3 hours of sleep, your brain is getting a bath. The lymphatic system of your brain is cleansing and getting rid of excess burdens, metals, chemicals, processed junk, chemicals that we expose ourselves to through water, food, and air. And so we want to make sure that anything our body is exposed to, even topically, chemicals, if these things get stored in the body and your body can't wash the brain during the night, it accumulates. Have you ever had paperwork, pile up on your desk? Have you ever had the trash a little bit overflowy? If we look at our to-do list and we go, whoa, well, your body's the same way. If it doesn't have the ample time to do the necessary processes for cleansing, trouble is on the horizon. And we don't want trouble. Nobody likes trouble in River City. We want to be fully functional, and we want to get good, deep sleep. We don't want to. When you go to sleep, you should literally close your eyes. Within 5 to 10 minutes, be out cold and wake up darn near in the same position that you went to bed in. And that means you weren't tossing and turning, that you weren't kicking the covers, you weren't beating up your pillow, you weren't waking up to pee, you weren't staring at the ceiling, you weren't dreaming, watching movie reels of your life. Okay? These are all aspects of sleep that you should evaluate. When we look at headaches and migraines and all disease, but we're talking about these guys, we're looking at food. Like, how many people are dealing with blood sugar problems? So I brought a little product. Actually, we could talk about both these products with this, the Liver Force and the Pro-Glyco SP. Liver Force is going to help the body get into deeper layers of sleep by improving liver function, where the Pro-Glyco SP is going to balance one's low blood sugar swings, the hypoglycemia, this aspect of food when they're eating either the wrong foods that are spiking their insulin and messing with their sugar curve, or when they're skipping meals continually and they're stressing out their metabolism and causing their body to slip off into what we call hypoglycemia land, and they can't get their bearings, blood sugar wise. And these are what we would lead into what we call trigger ideas of things that could cause. You miss a meal, you get a headache, and then that headache turns into a migraine. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So again, the simple can turn into something more extreme. How did you start your day this morning? Did you start with water? I started my day with 20 ounces of water this morning, 10 ounces when I first got up. Then I filled my glass up again. I took my dogs for a walk. While I was walking the dogs, I was sipping on the other 10. And by the time I got back, within 28 minutes of me being out of bed walking, I'm 20 ounces of water in.
I got a question.
Yo.
Do you, before you go to bed, do you drink a lot of water? No?
I do not, no. I cut water off. I start sipping on water after 5 or 6. Some people, I even have them start sipping on water after 4, which means that doesn't mean that they're cutting their water. I'm trying to get them a goal set to drink adequate water before 4 or 5 in the afternoon. That way, any extra you need or get is sipping with the meal, sipping to get your supplements, sipping because you have a dry throat, sipping because you just need a little something.
Okay.
And because what happens is you should be able to drink a 12-ounce bottle of fluid water before bed and go right to sleep, sleep through the night, not wake up to pee. Okay? But if you're waking up between 1 and 3 in the morning to pee, that's an indicator that your liver's struggling. Again, why the Liver Force is so valuable. Inside of here, we've got things like dandelion, one of my favorite, very gentle cleansers for the liver. It's got artichoke leaf. Artichokes are phenomenal for, maximizing phase 1 detoxification. And that's the conversion, where we start the conversion of fat-soluble compounds into intermediate metabolites, where we can start to push them into a water-soluble substrate that you can pee out, sweat out, breathe out, poop out. And that's a good thing. It's got inositol, great for the brain, helps support that glymphatic support in the brain, that lymphatic system of your brain, glymphatic. And L-methionine, milk thistle, very powerful for liver detoxification and liver repair. Remember, 80% of your liver can be destroyed and never show up on a blood panel. And I'm telling you, there is an absolute toxic component when we're talking about the migraine and cluster headache population. And so we want to get in there. Garlic, very blood flow.
And delicious.
And delicious, yes, I agree. Garlic has a very abundant impact on our cardiovascular system, as well as how the body it's like the antimicrobial of antimicrobials. Garlic is like a multivitamin in the herbal kingdom. You know what I mean? It's not a multi, but it would be classified as something that could be taken forever and ever and ever. And you might be that 1% that can't because you're allergic, but that means that you have a dirty liver. I've seen so many onion allergies and garlic allergies that we've been over to Outperform because of being able to clean the liver. Remember, the liver has 1,500 different pathways that we know about in science. I think there's more, but 1,500 different pathways that we can work with and deal with on the regular. Dude, this is an important system to be working on. Why you should be taking liver support every meal and at bedtime, because your liver's the giver. 80% can be destroyed and never show up on a blood panel. Don't be deceived because you have low enzymes. Don't be deceived because your numbers all look perfect on a blood panel. You don't want to see high numbers on your blood panel because that means that something is wrong.
Here's a question and a comment, and I'm not sure if there's an answer, but if there is, I really want to know it because I have the same issue coming up as well. So this is from Alyssa. Thank you for asking, and thank you for watching. Feel free to share this out if you're watching on social media. She said, well, with a newborn, I do have to wake up at least once every night to feed her. How do I make sure I get enough sleep as a newborn.
Yeah,
mom.
The breastfeeding mother, the newborn babies of the world have a tendency to run their own show and not allow for good quality deep sleep for that 6 to 7 to 9 hour windows. So these hopefully moms have an opportunity to catch up on some of that sleep throughout the day, maybe through a nap if the baby naps at all during the day and they're able to stay home. But for the ones that don't have the that don't have the luxury and they just are like running on the red eye, if you will, and their eyes are bloodshot and they're tired all the time and they're at their wits' end. I mean, it will take a toll on you, no doubt about it. It's a opportunity cost and what babies sometimes bring to the table. But I always find one thing, just on the very simple, God knows how much you can handle and has given you a measure of grace to handle it and your body's reserves that are there. But you will have moments where your body will like download and reboot and get that deep sleep and that opportunity to catch up, so to speak. But it does have a neurogenic effect. It does have a cardiovascular effect. It does have an impact on liver detoxification, which then leaves you potentially for the next child postpartum. Depression is a potential glitch that happens the second time around. Or if you have postpartum, the after a first baby, it might be because your body was already running on fumes, and now you are going through. It's like you started the race tired, right?
Right.
And so you have to do things to interject software downloads to help the body up. Well, I'm glad you asked, Alyssa. I have an answer right here. This little baby is a powerful tool. It's called the Adrenal Health Pack. In here contains Drenamin, which is adrenal food, blood support, and vitamin support specific to the adrenal glands, which helps the body manage stress. This stuff has Paraplex in it, which manages the endocrine axis as a whole, pituitary, thyroid, pancreas in this case. And you think endocrine, pancreas, well, we have the Drenamin to support the adrenals, and we bring in the blood sugar component because blood sugar fluctuations can absolutely impact the adrenal stress mechanisms. So, and then it's got Cataplex ACP in it, which is a major supporter of vitamins, minerals, and for the liver in and of itself, circulation-wise. So this guy right here, Adrenal Complex Packs, will help to restore where you're weak. And so this is the time where vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acid conversation from last week comes back full circle. We have to support the body when we're going through different seasons of life. So if you're somebody that is suffering, not getting sleep and not getting continuous sleep, and we know sleep is potentially a setup, a trigger for disease or trouble in some other area down the road, we can then interject a supportive care program to help modulate what stress management you need to get through your day, get through your night, and then we'll coach on how can we actually get baby to start, switching their circadian rhythm. Because remember, they lived inside your belly, and a lot of times they're very active when you're not, and while you're sleeping at night, and so they're used to being awake in the evening. We just got to shift them to our schedules, and that does take time, and every kid is different, but it always comes back down to what if you can give your child more minerals to calm their systems down and to reprogram their circadian rhythm. There's support that we can give to help reprogram their little brain even at the infancy level. Yes, it's not going to hurt them. I know that sounds weird, reprogramming little kid's brain, but it if you will, we're all familiar with technology. These phones need software downloads. The body needs software downloads. The kids need software downloads. Adults, we need software downloads. And so I love the idea by dropping something as simple as that little health packet in to your regime. And that would help your body manage the fact that you're losing a little bit of quality sleep over here, but you're not completely getting depleted because you're not, getting restoration, right? So yes, you're not getting full restoration because you're not getting that reboot sleep, but you're offsetting it with more food and nourishment and nutrition to help the adrenals manage that. So again, it's to get you through the season. But what we're looking at is like, How do we control the blood sugar? Pro-glyco-SP. This stuff is going to have a ton of vitamins for blood sugar management. This is going to have support herbally for the adrenal glands, the pancreas, the liver. Believe it or not, this even has CoQ10 in it. Interesting, right? So this product alone has anti-inflammatory properties, blood support properties, and it has the support to manage a person that has a very weak adrenal system, and will hold and manage that blood sugar and keep it stable through the day so that they're not on the roller coaster ride. This is a really cool product, the Pro-Glyco SP. And so we've got, tools in our tool bag. And we love the idea of having tools, because the more you have a tool, and you're learning through Living Well's podcast, you have an opportunity to maximize how your body is going to manage the day in and the day out, especially if you're somebody that is suffering already. You're like past this symptom place and you're having disease process. And so we want to make sure that we do things to help maximize your health and your physiology forward. And it does. At some point, it does take, interventions. Again, this is you taking the bull by the horn. So what are you eating? You got to evaluate that. I'm always shocked when I ask people to bring me food logs. They don't bring them. They don't send them. They don't let me have them. I don't know why. They're ashamed. I don't know. But the reality is we're not going to, hit you over the head with it. We want to use it as a teaching tool, I mean, the average American eats the same 10 to 11 foods over and over again. And if we can start changing some of those patterns and get them eating foods that are vegetables, fruits, proteins, and understanding the balance of their macros, their protein, fat, carb ratios, and we can show them. We have a whole program for that. It's called the Macro Fix program at Living Well that is designed to help people become more intuitive with food instead of fearful of food or confused about food or frustrated with food, right? I mean, how many people just don't know flat out what to eat? So when it comes to meals and whatnot, we do a lot around food at our office, and then we sprinkle in these food ideas to help support. So, continuing on the conversation, we want to look at this idea of DK force. Vitamin D, how important is the sunshine? Huge. Well, we're going into the winter, guys. Guess what? You're going to get less of the sun. We're farther away from the sun where we live here in Texas and Houston. And guess what? D with K is a powerful way. I don't even call D a vitamin anymore. It is a hormone. It's got so many jobs to do. Most people are running around at the bare minimum or below pathological standard of low D levels. That's under 30, and they're at 28, they're at 17. I've seen as low as 7. I mean, it's crazy the amount of when we look at the D levels, people that have no D, they have no ability to make these hormones. They have no ability to maximize mineral absorption. They have no ability to maximize cholesterol function. I mean, it's just amazing what D's involved with, and it's critical mass, man. We've got to make sure that this is another treatment option to support where the body is breaking down, and we can come in and fulfill that need, and we'll see the body have the tools to run the processes to prevent the disease that you're dealing with. In this case, migraines, cluster headaches in this state, right? So when you're dealing with migraines and headaches, exercise. Oh, well, there's a new one, right? We all know exercise is good for us. Why are we so stagnant? Why aren't we taking the bull by the horns and dragging our tail out of bed in the morning, getting it done, or making time at lunch, or making time after work to do what needs to be done for the body? 30 minutes, 40 minutes of exercise. It could be cardiovascular exercise. It could be weight training. It could be yoga. It could be, some sort of movement, swimming, tennis, pickleball. Have you heard of this? I mean, people it's a fun game. Activity. If the dude don't move,
the dude don't groove.
The dude don't groove. And we got to make sure that if you are active, that I don't care what age you are. I've got 70-year-olds. I got 80-year-olds. I got people with scoliosis in their back so bad, but they're still in their 70s and 80s going out dancing 3 or 4 times a week. Why? Because if the dude don't move,
the dude don't groove.
The dude don't groove. We got to make sure that your activity level's up. And it has been scientifically proven if you want to live long, activity, heavy lifting, lifting heavy things is a very good stressor for your body. Now, we don't want you to break yourself, but lift heavy in respect to what you deem heavy. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 is the heaviest. be in that 7 range, be in that 6.5 range, build up to that. And every now and again, push yourself to an 8. You don't have to ever go to a 10. You don't ever have to get yourself in a predicament. Anytime I go to lift anything heavy, even at 42, I literally stand over the weight, I look myself in the mirror, and I say, Lord, I say a prayer. Keep me safe, keep me healthy. Let this exercise do what it's supposed to do to maximize my gene code, to get those proteins, to those heat shock proteins and those health regenerative proteins to begin to percolate and circulate, and to grow my core and the muscles and the deep fibers that I don't normally get access to because I'm not lifting heavy things all day, right? I mean, activity is a good thing, and I just want to encourage you. You can do this. You can stay active in any way, shape, and form. We look at sufferers of migraines and or cluster headaches, again, relaxation, finding time to rest, finding time to chill, finding times to disconnect, finding opportunities where you can kind of like let your brain reset itself and you're not constantly being stimulated. If you are a sufferer of migraines and cluster headaches, man, you should drop the cell phone, like 2 hours a day max. 2 hours a day in front of a computer, max. Why? Because of the blue light, because of the stimulation, because of the video, the fast-paced nature. It's like a whirlwind in your head. It's too much. And odds are you are not relaxing even whenever you call yourself relaxed, because your minerals are getting depleted because of the toxicity that you're carrying that's driving your migraine or clusters, or the lack of minerals that you have to just recondition yourself for detoxification during the night, or to recover from a hardcore workout, or to recover from a stressful event, right? Because how many people today are walking around with a stress higher than their body's capacity?
I'd say there's a lot.
A lot.
Yeah,
I would say so. There's no grizzly bear in the room, but our bodies perceive there to be a grizzly behind the curtain, right? Ooh, what's back there? I mean, it could hurt me. It's behind the door. I can smell it. I know it's in here. And we freak out around the simplest things. Our adrenal fuse, our stress management fuse, our endocrine hormone fuse has gotten so low that the simplest things trigger us off. That's a need for minerals. Had a patient come in last week, but trying to go back to school, just overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, frustrated, hated life. Just was not in a good space, and it was primarily adrenal work and mineral work that we used at doses. Guys, get this: every 15 minutes. Now, I remember looking them in the eye and said, "Can you understand that your body is burning through nutrients so fast that you're not able to stay repleted for more than 15 minutes?" They go, "No, I don't really get it." I'm like, "I got it."
Wow.
But here's what I can tell you. If you will do this every 15 minutes, and you might not have to do it every 15 minutes forever, but at least for the next 3 days. But you mean you want me to wake up in the middle of the night? No. If you're sleeping, don't ever wake the sleeping giant. Don't wake the sleeping baby. The sleep is good. We're not going to mess with you while you're sleeping. But if you are not sleeping, set a timer every 15 minutes and dose. And then you will know. You'll figure out very quickly, I don't need it every 15 minutes. I can go 30 minutes. I can go 45 minutes. I can go an hour and a half. And you will feel your body. You'll become in contact with your body's cues that the triggers are starting to mount up and the symptoms are starting to make manifest. You start feeling the tension building. You start feeling the headache coming on. You start feeling those tails that the migraine's on its path to hit you, and it's like watching the weather radar. You're like, oh no, what do I do? All right, we better get after it. We better start downloading new software, change the space. Tony Robbins always said, when you're in a stressed out, overwhelmed state, just change your space. One of my business coaches always told me, change your space. I remember one time I was so overwhelmed and so stressed out 17 years ago before anybody knew, that I even was a blip on the radar in ability to serve people and help people and give people tools. I found, I was so overwhelmed. He said, get out of your car and throw a pencil on the ground. I'm like, what? He goes, get out of your car and throw a pencil on the ground. He's coaching me on the phone, right? Because, I'm like tripping. And I threw it on the ground, and he goes, now pick it up. And I'm like, okay. I pick it up. He goes, throw it down again. Threw it down again, and he goes, pick it up. And I picked it up again, and he goes, now, what you're doing is you're controlling something in your environment, even something so simple. You're freaking out over something that's not that big of a deal, but for right now, your body's tripping out, and we're going to get you to engage the cortex. So we got to get you out of the brainstem, that primal mammalian, reactive brain. We got to get you into your cortical brain, into your thinking brain, your neocortex, so that you can ask a question. Aaron, how do you want to feel right now? And now, look into the sky and see what you see up there. I see nothing. Great. Keep staring at the sky. Let your brain chill for 5 minutes. That relaxation is a huge piece of what is necessary in managing, stress, which then is a trigger for migraines and or clusters. So we've got to start looking for the cues. And then other triggers that we want to be looking for is like, are there food triggers? Every time you mentioned earlier gluten with your wife and headaches, that you're not sure if they were migraines, but they were at least occasionally a migraine level. Something
consistent.
That
and they were consistently happening for years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, COVID, no gluten, no headaches. Was it the COVID? So you're telling me a virus was good for her, upregulated her immune system, and it helped her body, come back online in a way? Could, I guess. Sometimes a short circuit in the system, and the system gets a handle on it, reboots itself. It's better. I've seen too many times. I've seen something extreme as cancer come on a patient. They get pregnant, the cancer goes away. The body goes, I don't have time for cancer. Boom, just annihilated it. What?
Wow.
Baby developed, baby healthy, mommy healthy, still to this day healthy as a lark. Okay. Sometimes disease can be that trigger that is a stimulus that stimulates the body to do something it was supposed to be doing all along, right? But what if it's a trigger like gluten? What if it's a trigger like dairy? What if it's a trigger like sugar or MSG? We've got two foods and two chemicals to talk about, right? And too often people are dealing with food inflammation and processed ingredient inflammation that's creating constriction of blood vessels in the brain, restricting nutritional delivery to the brain, oxygen to the brain, cell-to-cell respiration in the brain. It's a recipe for disaster, right? It's not a stretch at this point for a person to have a migraine or some sort of suffering, cluster headache or whatever. If you're a smoker and it's very well documented that you're going to be more challenged cardiovascularly than somebody that doesn't smoke. Now, if you're sitting at your desk all day, or you're a truck driver and you're driving all day every day, and you're not getting active and doing the activity portion of our talk today, guess what? Sitting's the new smoking. Sitting stagnant, staying stagnant will absolutely, positively cause problems in your circulatory pathways. And so again, if the dude don't move, the dude don't groove. You got to start evaluating these triggers and look at, all right, is there stuff I'm eating that could do it? You've got to evaluate what you're putting in as a fuel source. You've got to see, do you have a regularity pattern to your day? Do you eat breakfast every day? Do you eat lunch every day? Do you eat dinner every day? Are you bought into the model of not eating till like 12, 1, 3 o'clock in the afternoon? And so now you're loaded on coffee. You're stressed because you're hungry. You're stressed because your boss is riding you. I mean, that is in and of itself a recipe for disaster, right? So again, if you're not putting in the resources to support the body, like the adrenal complex pack that has the adrenaline, paraplex, and ACP in it, if you're not dropping the CoQ10, if you're not putting the ProGlyco and the liver support and the DK4s, if you're not putting these things in, you're missing it. If you're not leveraging these two little beauties, this stuff here is called Mintran. Now, I obviously was out of Mintran, or actually I was repurposing this bottle of Mintran. It was at one point Cat's Claw, but I just repurposed it, and it says Mintran there in the corner. My daughter must have been going on a trip, or I was making something for somebody's bedside.
Yeah.
Because again, if you can't fall asleep at night, this stuff right here will help you fall asleep in 10 minutes. It's awesome. You got a cramp in your leg, this will take cramp away 5 minutes. If you are anxious, overwhelmed, this stuff will calm your brain so that you don't drive off the cliff. Isn't that cool? I mean, guys, we're a wealth of information here, and tons of support and ideas. Nevaton, It is, 4 different, wonderful herbs. It's got skullcap. That helps keep your brain from exploding whenever you're at your wit's end.
It's important.
Yeah, I think so, especially if you're married or a parent. St. John's. Some people go, oh, I can't do St. John's because I've taken antidepressant. But it's not always the case. There's plenty of times when we've seen this interact just fine with patients on antidepressants. We have to just listen to your story and find out if you're a candidate for it or not. Shisandra, wonderful, wonderful product. Saffron, wonderful product. This product here increases a person's bandwidth. So now we calm their brain with the Mintran, and we increase their bandwidth with Neviton, and it's a nervine tonic, and it helps to keep the bandwidth in check so that the body can perform at a wonderful level of stress management, and so that you're not slipping into that mammalian reactive brain, you're staying in your cortical thinking brain. And what happens is when you're controlling these things, you're controlling your space. So like if a headache was coming on, a very simple thing to do is you could do the ProGlyco SP, the Adrenal Health Pack, and you could do the Mintran and Neviton, and just see if that calms the brain. And in that calming, you actually dilate the vasculature, and now we slow down the processes and the stimulation in the brain. And guess what winds up happening? You start to improve blood flow to the brain. That means the brain is actually getting nourishment, and it's able to get rid of toxins, and the body's not slipping off into the trigger of overreaction and overwhelm. I mean, that is another a powerful place. If you're somebody, looking again at triggers, every time you walk down the perfume aisle, migraines come on. Every time you pump gas, you kind of get a mild headache. Pesticides, you spray your house, you get headaches. Strong odors, of any kind, the little cutesy things that we smell our houses up with. All these things potentially can be chemicals and metals and preservatives and cancer-causing agents that can create stress for your liver. And so, again, now we've got to come back to the liver CoQ10 conversation and the vitamin D conversation to maximize, what's happening in your liver's ability to manage the toxic load that we're exposed to day in and day out. And so we look at this idea of okay, what can I do? Have we not given you plenty of ideas today?
There's a lot of ideas.
There's a lot of places. Now, you might be somebody that struggles and doesn't exactly know where to start your health journey, and that's okay, because guess what? Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center has got your back. We are and want to be your number one health and wellness resource. We want to teach you how to live better, be better, stay better through food. We know that if you just take the bull by the horns, that's why I have all these little, trinkets and tools up here. I didn't even pull this little dude right here, Epiimmune, Cataplex D, Echinacea. It's another immune pack. So what if every day before you sent your kids off, you sent the immune pack and the Adrenal? So this immune pack, again, stimulates the immune system through mushrooms, Cataplex D, which is obviously what we just talked about, and Echinacea for blood flow and stimulating different aspects of your immune system's ability. Echinacea does so many things. It's another multivitamin of the herbal community kingdom. And so, we've talked about ways to manage that. So if you just gave your kid, those 2 packets in the morning before they flushed off to school, guess what? You just supported them more than they could imagine. My daughter asked me this morning and goes, hey, can you make me a brain pack? And I said, sure I can. Gave her some acetyl-CH, acetylcholine, gave her a little bit of ribonucleic acid, gave her a little bit of adaptocrine for the adrenals, and gave her a little bit of Bacopa. Not a lot, a dose in the morning and probably a dose at lunch. She'll sail through her day. She'll be more focused, more attentive. I said, anytime your brain, even at 10 o'clock, if your brain starts to misfire and starts to shut down on you, just take a dose, and it will get you through. We'll figure out, can she make it through the day with 2 doses, or is she do I need to pack her 3 doses? And it's learning. Kids are learning. She's at least asking. She's seeing that there's tools that she can use to get through her day. I gave her the adaptocrine because, she's in a new program. She's a little bit overwhelmed, and I want her to be able to manage the stress. And, oh, yeah, I did drop a little Neviton in there, too, that she doesn't know about. Why? Because I know that, if I can keep her reactive brain silent and her engaged brain, cortical brain intact, she will think through her day and navigate her day and be a blessing to her day. and it'll be a blessing to her and be very encouraging. So we at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center are constantly striving to give you tools, resources, and education around how to live better, be better, and stay better. And so this is a time where, like Celion, decided she wanted to hear about migraines, and she goes, you know what? I bet you my buddy, Dr. Chapa, on his podcast would love to talk about migraines. So if you've got topics, if you got things that you want to talk about, put them in the queue. Email us, call us, let us know. We will build you a show. And so hopefully this show was not just for her. Hopefully it's going to touch a lot of your friends, family, and loved ones. Hopefully anybody, because all of us at some level have been impacted by what?
Headaches, migraines.
Yeah, headaches, migraines, cluster headaches, and there's no reason that we need to suffer needlessly. We are a wealth of resource on why your body is breaking down and can help you navigate the terrain so that you feel better, live better, and perform at your best day in and day out. And we just want to be an encouraging resource for you. We want to give you hope that you don't have to suffer, all the days of your life that you have been, even for a month. Some of these things it's terrible. Like you said, there's regularity. You just know it's coming. You're like, I hope today's not the day. So if that's you, give us a call, 281-554-8600. For everyone else, share this with your friends, family, loved ones. We love the podcast. We love what we're doing on social media. So, Gardy, tell them how they can get a better, catch up on all the fun, wonderful things that we're doing.
So if you want to go back and it's a lot to remember, a lot of information, you can go back and watch on all the social medias, but you can also go and get the Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center podcast. Make sure that you subscribe to that. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. Wherever you get your podcast from or listen to them, it's up there. So you can search Dr. Aaron Chapa. You just have to subscribe one time, and then we get it uploaded same day. And it's easy to share that information with somebody. I guarantee you a lot more people listen to podcasts, I think, than we realize.
Dude, totally. My buddy Brad Hall, God bless you, dude. He's out in the UPS truck right now traveling around. And the other day when you had to head out of town and we had to do that replay, he texted me and goes, dude, where's your show?
What's going on?
They didn't upload it. Like, I'm disappointed. Like, I didn't get my Japa fix.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know who I'm talking to. So please tell me that you're listening, because I don't know. I don't see you. I'm always curious to know actually who likes this show, who wants more of this show. If you guys are done listening to me, well, sorry, turn the channel, but because I have something to say. I have something I want to share with you. I know it's going to be a blessing to you and your family. And, but I love it, so, bless Brad as he's out there, rolling that truck around and listening to me and supporting what we do through and educating himself so he can better be a instrument for his family and his friends. And that's what it's all about, man, is this idea of sharing. Mm-hmm. And we're all starting to really come to grips with the way technology is rolling, and we're slowly but surely everybody's learning to adopt it and how this piece is going to be leveraged into my life and stuff like that. And one last thing. So September 24th, 1 to 3, we have a what did she say? It was called a Wellabration, I think, is what she called it. Wellabration. We're going to have a grand opening, ribbon cutting and all, Wellabration at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center at our new location, 322 East Main Street. And we invite you to come out and mark your calendars for that. We're going to have some games. We're going to have some giveaways, prizes. I can't remember all the things that we're giving away, but it's a ton of stuff. We're going to have a walkthrough. We're going to showcase the practice, the building, and just so that you can see more of what we're doing with our detox center, with the event center, with our a clinic to help you again and your family live better, be better. It's so nice to still see a brick and mortar place that you can actually physically come into contact with. I'm all about telemed and online stuff, and I know I'm going there too to some degree. But at the end of the day, there's nothing about that we can't credit to the aspect of human touch and being in face-to-face community with people. So I just want to encourage all of you guys to mark your calendars. September 24th, 1 to 3. We're fired up, excited, and it's just going to be a good time. So definitely come to the Wellabration ribbon cutting and be a part of it. Because you guys make it special for us. When we see y'all smiling faces and see y'all excited about health and wellness and things like that, I mean, that's what it's about, because we want people to integrate this stuff into their lives. We know it's not always easy, and we want to try to make it easier by helping you navigate the challenges and obstacles that keep you from being the best version of you. So God bless you all today. May the Lord continue to bless you, shine his face upon you, and we'll see you guys next week.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM.